Hello, welcome to LLM Tips with IJ. I am Ijoma Joshua and I'm super excited that you decided to check this episode out. You are really curious, I'm sure, as to how I passed the bar exam. But first of all, I like to congratulate myself for passing that exam. And I want to congratulate you in advance too because it's not a joke. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about how I passed that exam, how I want to say I smashed that exam, right? And I say that with so much humility, but I didn't score over 300 by just sitting on my butt. No, I did the work and God blessed it, right? And so I want to share some of the tips and tricks of passing that exam, which for some of you might already know. And so if you know those tips and tricks, good for you, but please share with someone and share with someone who needs to know, because I didn't just pass the exam, I had to handwrite that exam. And imagine handwriting for 2 days, 6 hours each day. It was crazy. I am going to explain all that to you throughout this episode. So please stick with me, watch till the end of the episode. I'm going to be talking about the structure, I'm going to be talking about the little tips and tricks here and there. Now, let's jump right on it. So first things first, I'm going to be talking about the structure of that exam. I'm sure at this point you know that the New York Bar exam is a 2-day exam. Each day for 6 hours, right? So it's a total of 12 hours that you'll be writing that exam. Now let's talk about the structure. Typically, the first day of that exam is going to have you writing the MEEs and the MPTs. Now what is that? The MEEs is the multi-state essay exam and the MPTs are the multi-state performance test. It really is a mouthful, so you don't need to really care. No one is really going to ask you what the MEEs or the MPTs are, but I just want to provide that information if that is helpful, right? For those who have no idea how the exam works, right? So you have the MEEs and the MPTs, as I said. So the MEEs are usually 3 hours, the MPTs are 3 hours. So in the MEE section, you're writing 6 essays for 3 hours. As I said, I had wrote these pieces and I'm going to tell you why I did what I did. And then the MPTs, which is more like this is an opportunity for you to write more practical things. So it's not essays, not theoretical. You're given this question, you're given the law and facts, and you're told to write maybe a memo or even a brief, right? And so the MPTs is very practical. They don't expect you to come up with answers. As a matter of fact, if you're coming up with answers that are outside of, because they've given you the law, they've given you the facts, and they just want to see you apply the law to the facts. Finish.
Once you see yourself coming up with like new theoretical answers for your MPTs, just know that you are going the wrong path. My brother and sister, please be coming back.
This is not, to not overthink it. That is what the MPTs are. They are 3 hours. So the MEE 3 hours, the MPTs 3 hours. So just bear that in mind. On the second day of the exam, you have what is called the multi-state bar exam. That is what we Nigerians like to call MCQs. Multiple choice questions, right? And so each question will have a question and then options for you to pick from, right? And so you have 200 of those questions to be answered in 6 hours. The first 100 will be in the first 3 hours, which typically from 9:30 a.m. to 12:30 a.m. And then the second block of questions for another 100 hours, so you get a break in between, will be from I think 2 to 5. Please fact check. Please make sure you check the instructions for your exam and don't come late. These things may have changed. I wrote my exam like 2-3 years ago and I don't know if that has changed. But you typically write your MEEs and MPTs on the first day, and then you write the MBEs, which is the multi-state bar exam, the multiple choice questions on the second day, right? So on the multiple choice questions, I want to tell you that there are particular fundamentals that you should expect on that day, right? And I'm sure you know that, but I'm going to list those subjects for you. So on the MBEs, which is the multi-choice question portion, you can expect questions on constitutional law, contracts, criminal law and procedure, evidence, federal civil procedure, real property, torts. I'm not telling you this because I set your questions. I'm telling you this because it's like it's online. It's what I did too, and it's online, right? So this is the no point way like to tell you what is going to come out on the exams, but I'm sure you already know that these are subjects that are going to come out. In your MEEs, which is the essay portion, you can expect those MBE subjects And in addition to subjects around agency and partnership, corporations, conflicts of law, family law, trust and estates, and then even the uniform commercial code. Now let's jump into the juicy part. I'm done with talking about structure. I know you really want to know what I did, and I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't do anything magical, and all the folks that have done it didn't do anything magical, but they did the work. First things first, right? This point I'm going to give is going to be the most important point for folks writing the exam next month. Practice. Practice, practice, practice. Don't fall into that trap of reading and feel like you need to accumulate knowledge. I know in a lot of our countries we write essays and you're told, oh wow, read, be strategic in your reading. No. The bar exam is really about who is the most skillful, not really about who knows the most, right? So someone can have so much theoretical knowledge and still not know how to write. There's a system to writing that exam, I have to be honest. It's not about knowing too much. You can know too much and still fail, right? So first things first, practice. I want to be honest with you, that is the only way to pass the exam. I feel like if you've watched this, you can leave at this point. Right? If you are writing the exam next month, just know that if you're practicing now, practice, just keep practicing more. I use the famous bar prep, right? And they had so many questions, and let me tell you what my experience was. Because I had practiced like over 90% of the famous questions. I think they have over 4,000 on their portal, right? But over 90% of the questions I had practiced it. Some of those questions, if I'm being honest, came out on the bar exam. I saw some of those questions on the exam day. There is a skill to writing that exam. Do not be afraid to fail. It is okay to fail as you're learning, because when you fail and you go back to see, why did I fail this question? That is the best use of your failure, right? So don't let your failure in the prep process be a waste. And how is it going to be a waste? If you write, you practice, you fail, and you don't see why you failed this way. So please practice. If you're already practicing, if you're doing that, well done. If you've not been practicing, please practice. Please, no need to read too much. Just practice and practice and practice. Practice the MBEs, practice the MEEs, and time yourself, right? It's not even about practicing. It's about practicing within a set time. So please practice, but don't only practice. Practice and time yourself. Learn the art of writing the exam within the time frames, because that is the worst thing that can happen to you. You accumulate all that knowledge and you didn't finish. Why did I read all that then if I wasn't going to finish? So please train yourself to practice questions and practice within time. Next thing, you need to figure out how you're going to write that exam. So for folks who are writing next month, are you going to use your computers or are you going to handwrite? As you know, at this point in the episode, I've already mentioned that I had to handwrite. Why? I was being honest with myself. I'm from Nigeria. Most of my exams are handwritten, right? And even when I came to the US and I did my master's, and even though I typed my exams, it's very different in the New York bar exam. The New York bar exam, time is money. I didn't have the time to figure out, oh, where is A on the keypad? Right now, maybe that wouldn't be a problem because I've spent most of my time, my work, I typed throughout. But I was honest with myself, right? I knew that this was a time crunch, right? It's a very, you're already pressed for time, and I didn't want to figure out where is the A and the S and the D and the F on my keypad. No, I didn't want to deal with that, and so I handwrote. And so guess what I did? I didn't just handwrite on that day. I practiced handwriting, right? So I wrote my exam in capital letters because I knew, first of all, Lord, my handwriting is like what we call foul scratch. It's like chickens just scratching on paper. So I had to write in capital letters for 6 hours, right? So remember the days of the MEE and MPT, right? Is the 6 hours exam. There's a break in between, but you're writing 3 hours, right? And so I had to handwrite that exam. And as I said, there's a reason why. I knew what I was comfortable with. You need to ask yourself the question, what are you comfortable with, right? There is no pressure. You can pass the exam. So for anyone who was thinking, nobody passes the exam handwriting, that's a lie. I handwrote the exam and I scored over 300. So it is possible. You can handwrite the exam. But I don't advise you to do that if you know you're comfortable with a computer. because obviously handwriting is work. By the time I was done with that exam, oh Lord, I could, like, my fingers were dancing, like literally they were in so much pain, right? But I had trained myself. But that wasn't the first time I was writing for 6 hours. I had trained myself during the prep stage to write for 6 hours. So if you know you're going to handwrite, please don't just handwrite on that day. Practice handwriting throughout the prep time. Practice handwriting for the 3 months you'll be practicing or preparing for the exam. Practice handwriting and make the decision early, right? So if you've been on the fence for a very long time, you don't have that time to be on the fence. Make the decision early, because there are things you're supposed to do with the New York bar exam. The folks, I'll call them the New York bar exam folks, which are the folks who administer the exam. There's a kind of process you're supposed to go through if you're going to handwrite. So make the decision early, plan early. Don't be indecisive, right? If you've been on the edge, I will let you know this. You can pass handwriting the exam, and you can pass with your computer. So make the choices up to you. Just practice. If you feel like you're not so comfortable with your computers, you can use, but you want to use your computer to write that exam, use your computer to prepare. Do not then handwrite during the preparation and then want to use your computer in the exam. That's a lot of work for you. So please, you can pass with the board. Make your decisions as early as possible. Number 3, I get this question a lot. I have folks who reach out to me on LinkedIn, and there are a couple of folks who reach out to me to ask for my notes while preparing for the bar exam. I will not advise you to prepare for the bar exam without a learning portal, right? So for me, as I said, I use Themis, and this is not this episode is not sponsored, even though I wouldn't mind a sponsorship. But this episode is not sponsored by Themis, but I use Themis and they were super helpful, right? But there is Themis, there is Barbary. At the time, if I'm being honest, I didn't know anything about Themis. I just chose Themis at the time because it was the most affordable, and I was a student. I mean, come on, like, the most affordable was what I went for. But you have a choice. Regardless of the portal you use a portal. Use a learning portal. There are a couple of reasons why you should use a learning portal. As an LLM student, you likely have not been exposed to the number of courses that is going to be set on that exam, right? So there are about 15 courses, constitutional or criminal, like I mentioned those courses, right? And so in the course of your LLM, your master's program, you probably didn't do maybe constitutional law. If you did constitutional law, maybe you didn't go do corporations. You know, there are subjects that you've not been exposed to, and you need a portal. You need those learning portals, the Themises and the Barbarys and all the other new ones that have come out, to really learn those subjects. So why I really enjoyed using the one that I used was because there was a video, like someone would actually teach you, video recorded, there are notes, there are things, and I think Barbary and all the others do. So I'm not endorsing anyone. I just know I used Themis and I passed, right? And so Barbary too works. Folks use Barbary and pass as well, right? So all I'm saying from this point is use a learning portal. I have folks who reach out to me asking for my notes or asking for notes of other folks. Yes, those notes can add to yours, but nothing takes the, in my own opinion, I'm sure folks maybe might differ. Maybe if you're a brainiac and you know you were very smart, you didn't use a learning portal, but I knew that I didn't want to write an exam more than once, right? And so I was ready to spend whatever I had to spend just to get it over and done with. So my advice is, please use a learning portal. This advice is too late for any person writing the exam next month. So, you know, this is not for you. If you're writing the exam next month, I want to believe that you already have a portal that you're learning with and that provides that support. Another importance of the learning portal is that they give you practice questions. You can practice thousands of questions, right? And so you will never run out of questions to practice. And the more you practice, the more, as I said, the more prepared you are for the exam. Those multiple choice questions where A looks like B, B looks like A looks like C, and C looks like D. They all look like the same answer and all of them could be right. You need to practice, you need the skill. And that is why I always recommend using the learning portal. If you're not using Themis, or if you're not using Barbary or one of those things, use one of them, because even if I send you my notes, or even if anyone gives you their notes, it doesn't take away the place of practicing, and you can only get those from the learning portals. Now let me go into the meat of what I really did. So I I wrote my own bar exam in February 2020, right? And so I did. There's this thing on Themis called, I think, the LLM Advantage. It's a Themis program that is specifically for LLM students, and it gives them more time on the portal. So I think you have 6 months. Please fact check, correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section, because it's been a while. But you have 6 months to write there. 6 months not to write, but 6 months to practice and to learn on the portal. Something else I would say is this point actually is really about how I studied, right? And so I started all the way in September, I think, and then wrote the exam in February, right? And so I was, if I'm being honest with you, I wrote that exam. While I was preparing for the exam, I was working 2 jobs at the same time and writing that exam and preparing for that exam actually, and it was a lot, right? And so I just want to encourage anyone who is currently preparing for that exam, for the New York bar exam. It's not a joke, but give it your best. Give it your best, and I promise you, by God's grace, God will see you through. So let me go back to all the stuff I was saying. One other thing I would add is, I just want to give you how I was preparing for the exam. So I first of all started by watching the videos, right? For those who are like, oh, how did you do it? I first of all started by watching the videos and making my notes. I cannot overemphasize that. I believe it's important to make your notes, because you will thank yourself later in the process. I know it's hard when you're making those notes and it feels like, oh my gosh, you're running out of time, but make those notes. That is how you learn, unless you don't learn by making notes. But if you know that's how you learn, making notes, I encourage you, continue making the notes. This is not a time to try new things. Do what you've been doing. You've written exams before. You're a lawyer from your country. You've probably written worse exams than the New York bar. Let's be honest, in our countries, in my own opinion, the Nigerian bar exam, I'm Nigerian, is difficult. In my own opinion, way difficult than this exam. But that's my opinion. But as I was saying, it's very, very important that you make your notes. If you make your notes, you will thank yourself later, because when you're closer to the exam, you're reading your notes, you're reading your handwriting, you're reading things that are familiar to you. So I would encourage you, first step, make your notes. Another thing I would say is that you need to dedicate time to preparing for that exam. And so for me, I was reading, honestly, there was a time where I was reading 8 to 12, 13 hours, right, for the exam a day. 8 to 12, 13 hours a day. I'm just being very honest, right? I was in my room just reading, but I didn't just read, I gave myself breaks. So please give yourself breaks in the process. God knows the number of episodes of Friends I binge watched. Right, I watched Friends. That was how I stayed like alive, because that period literally died to your family and friends. Right, you're not talking to them as much as you would love to and all that. I did a lot of exercising, but on a day average I read 8 to 14 hours a day. I'm being very honest, I'm not exaggerating. And when I say inclusive of those hours are my rest periods, because for me that's all part of studying. So if you're thinking 8 hours is just me reading, oh Lord, you're joking. I took breaks in between, 30 minutes break, 1 hour breaks. I would reward myself with breaks and with food. I have to be honest, I rewarded myself with food. A lot of plantains, because I'm a plantain freak. But I'm just letting you know what my schedule was like, right? And so I started, as I said, with reading, watching the episode, not the episodes, but watching the videos, like the teachings that the professors of the various subjects were giving. I was making my notes, I was reading, and then I started practicing. I started practicing early. And I'm emphasizing this so much because a lot of folks fell into that trap of just reading and reading. I started practicing very, very early, because as a Nigerian, I've written a lot of exams, and I know it's not about the person who knows most, it's about the skill, right? And so I started practicing the exam as early as possible, and I was comfortable failing during the prep exam. I told myself, it's better for me to fail now. I'm very happy to fail now than to fail on that day, right? So prepping, even when I hadn't read some subjects, I would prep and just see, oh, try my fingers on some of them. So please practice. Oh Lord, I feel like I've said that so many times. I feel like that could be the name of this episode. Practice, practice, practice. But please do practice. It's very, very important. I think a couple of things that you should also do the day of the exam. First of all, don't go late, right? That won't help you. That will only add to your anxiety and your pressure. Whew. If it's going to get cold, please also come with very warm clothes, because it depends on where you're writing the exam. But I know for me, I think I was in Buffalo at the time and it was cold. It was really, 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 have I said really, really cold, right? So it's very important that you dress warm, come early, come with food. I cannot explain that piece enough. I think you need to have, I'm not sure, I don't know about coming with food, but have some food arrangements. I wrote the second part of my exam hungry, and there's a difference. The blood in your brain, it just stops working. Like at the point in my exam, I'm telling you, I was so hungry because, as I said, it's a 6-hour per day, right, for 2 days. So I think for the second day, which is my MBE day, I'm not sure what happened with lunch. I can't remember what went wrong with my lunch, but I was hungry. Please plan for food. I'm not sure what the food arrangements are, what security is, if you can or cannot bring food. I don't think you can. I'm not sure please find out, but make arrangements for food. Whether it means going to a restaurant to get something to eat, but do not write that exam hungry. It is challenging enough. Don't add to your challenge. This is just extra tip for what to get done on that day. Now let's jump back to the prep period. And I was trying my new lighting to see what gives me the best light, and turns out I feel like this gives me the best light. Well, let's jump onto the remaining part of the episode. This was just a bonus point. The portal that you use will also send you textbooks. They will send you very lengthy or bulky books and very condensed outlines. So for themes, that's something that was very helpful. They sent outlines that were just very concise. This is the points you need to know, and then they sent also very thick textbooks for you to learn more, right? And so I used all of them. I have to be honest with you. I didn't use the thick ones, like the very extended theoretical, I want to call them theoretical because they had more in them, right? I didn't read those ones so much. So let me tell you what I did. So if I read a question, if I practice a question and I fail, right, and I want to know why I fail, obviously I go back and I read through and I see, why did I fail this question? If that doesn't make sense, then I will refer to the more comprehensive textbooks, right? But in my revisions, right, while I will revise my notes, I'll also review the condensed outlines that were just bullet points. I mean, those were very helpful, because when you get to the tail end of the prep period, which is now for a lot of folks who are preparing for the February bar, is you don't need a lot of information. By God's grace, at this point, you've read and you've learned. At this point, what you're trying to actually do is just make sure everything is in your brain, all the things that you've read and your brain, and you're practicing as much as possible. So those condensed outlines were very helpful for me. And so I also use a lot of, I know folks that use them. What are those things? Acronyms. They use A, Y, N, C. I didn't do that because it wasn't very easy for me. So these are also tips for you. If you use acronyms, please use them, because it's a lot of materials. Acronyms help you. If you use music to learn, oh Lord, please. I had folks who would be singing different things in criminal procedure and just to learn. Please use what is familiar to you. The exam is no different from any other exam that you've written. So if you try to do new things on this exam, I don't advise that. If you've used acronyms, use your acronyms. If you've handwritten for most of your life and you're comfortable handwriting, please handwrite. If you've used computer, please use your computers if that is what is comfortable for you. I hope this has been very helpful for you. I know that I've spoken so much, and this is like the most passionate you would ever see me, because I went through so much while preparing for that exam. I was so alone. I didn't have my family. actually, like, my family was in Nigeria, still is in Nigeria, right? But I didn't speak with them as often as I would usually do. It was winter, it was so cold. I just want to encourage you. I know what it means to go through that exam. I know, like, I know it's trying, I know it's crazy, but I believe in you. I know you can pass it. Just put in the work, right? Just put in the work. I mean, you would pass the exam and you'd be like, oh, is this it? Like, is this it? Right? And so I really believe in you. I want you to have hope. You can pass the exam. You can. One thing to do away with is fear and anxiety. That can kill you, right? Fear and anxiety. And one way to do away with fear and anxiety, if you're dealing with a lot of fear and anxiety at this point, is practice. The more you practice, the less things will look new to you on the exam day. As I said, some of the questions that I practiced during the exam, some of the questions that I practiced came out again, right? And if you check the New York Bar exam website, you will see there's a link for past exam, like for past exam questions. So please practice as much as you can practice. Practice as much as you can practice to give the exam your very best, right? You spend a lot of money, you're flying in from different states. Give yourself the opportunity to pass by practicing the exam. I hope I haven't spoken too long. I know this is something that really touches my heart because I went through a lot during that period. I want to say congratulations in advance. Please, if this video is helpful, please share with folks who are currently planning to write that exam. I believe in you. I know your family believes in you, or whoever your family is, your friends, your loved ones believe in you, and I'm looking forward to celebrating with you guys. Thank you for checking this episode out, and please watch out for our next episode. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.